Welcome back everyone to the Organic Archery YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a kid's bow in about an hour using green wood and simple tools. Here I'm using a piece of Morrow's honeysuckle, which is a vicious invasive in our area, but pretty much any green stick will do. I think you'll find that more trees and shrubs will make a kid's bow than those that won't. However, I would recommend steering clear of the evergreens like pine, spruce, and fir. The branch or sapling needs to be about as tall as the kid that will be shooting it, 1 to 2 inches in diameter, and as straight and clean as you can manage to find. Find a comfortable carving spot and examine your stave to determine which side is the cleanest and most trouble-free. That will become the back of the bow, or the side that faces away from the archer. Then you'll begin removing wood from the inside of the bend, or the belly of the bow, and this will be the only side you remove wood from for the remainder of the process. You should never allow steel to touch the back of the bow. I like to use a hatchet or a machete for the early wood removal because it moves material much faster than a rasp. Once a little of the early mass has been removed, I switch to a 14-inch farrier's rasp, and pretty much any wood rasp will do. You can do the entire build with a hatchet and a knife, but a rasp is an inexpensive and effective way to remove controlled amounts of wood. Continue removing material from the stiff areas of the bow until it has a decent looking bend when you pull it across your knee. Removing the bark from these small branches is optional, but if it slips off easily, it will make the bow more durable. The front profile of the bow still looks a lot like a broomstick, so now it's time to taper the last foot or so of the limbs so they're more efficient. There's no golden rule for tapering the limbs, but I shoot for about 3/4 of an inch at the tips, and that's going to give me plenty of room to cut nice deep string grooves, which are easier for kids to use. The side of the branch that was facing the sun doesn't require much work, but the side that was near the ground is usually a lot thicker, so sometimes I'll speed it up with a hatchet. Here's a look at the new front profile with tapered limbs. Now it's time to cut some simple string grooves. It doesn't take very much to hold a bowstring on, so feel free to cut single nocks or double nocks or whatever you like. Grab some 550 cord and make your string about as long as the bow plus 6 to 12 inches. For the top loop, I'm going to tie a bowline knot, but you can also just tie a simple overhand loop. Attach the bowline knot to one of the limbs and pull the string down to the other side, where you will make a timber hitch about 3 fingers down from the other string grooves. The timber hitch is important because paracord stretches, and this will allow you to adjust the bowstring as it settles in. Take the bowline knot off so you can tightly secure your timber hitch and step through the bow. Here's an example of the step through method, but feel free to string your bow however you prefer. Right out the gate, the bow has far too much bend in this area, so I need to remove wood from everywhere except that area until the bend looks more uniform. You should give the bow 10 to 20 gentle exercise pulls between each wood removal to settle in the new bend. It's looking much better now, but it's still a little bit too stiff in the outer thirds on each side. Take your time and do as many small adjustments as needed to get the bend to look right. Some bows come around very easily, and others require many adjustments. Just remember that if you get in a hurry this late in the process, you'll probably ruin your bow. It's looking much better now, and I think I'm going to go with it. Kids' bows usually get used and abused pretty hard, so finish work is optional, but if you want to take out some of the deep rasp marks, you can do it quickly by using your knife as a scraper. Here's a quick look at the finished product before I go shoot it in. I think you'll agree after you see the shooting sequence that these simple greenwood stick bows are not toys. I'm shooting adult weight arrows in the video, and these rip even faster with lightweight kids arrows. So make sure to go over the safety rules with your kids. If someone or something were to catch a stray arrow from one of these, it would probably do some damage. There you have it, guys. I cut this branch, and once I got it into my shop, it only took me about an hour and a half to get this bow done. And of course, that's with me messing with cameras and trying to set up shots and stuff. And it doesn't include the time that it took to drive out and find the stick. But you should be able to get this done in about an hour or two. Before I close out the video, I wanted to cover a couple of things you should consider and some of the problems you might run into. For starters, almost any old stick from many different species of trees will work, but I do recommend cutting it green so you know it doesn't have any rot or insect damage. Don't cut dead standing or trees that are laying on the ground. Make sure it's a nice healthy branch or sapling. If it's your first time building a primitive bow, or you're not feeling very confident in your abilities, make sure that as the adult, you take the first few dozen shots out of the bow. If it does break, it'll happen early on, usually. Green wood is pretty forgiving, and it's kind of hard to break. But still, if you have major errors in your execution and you hand it off to a kid without testing it out, it could snap at full draw. And the chances of a serious injury are pretty low, but it can give you a pretty good lump on the head. One of the problems you might encounter is wrist slap, especially with these cheesy paracord bowstrings. This nylon stretches real bad, so if your kiddo is getting slapped on the wrist and getting bruises and stuff like that, just continue to raise the brace height by tightening your timber hitch until it doesn't slap the wrist anymore. Of course, that's within reason. You don't want these things to look like a horseshoe when they're strung. The next one you might encounter that will be uncomfortable will be hand shock. And it's not going to be a question if you have it, because it shoots a lightning bolt into your joints and it feels like the bow kicks a lot, and it's quite unpleasant. So if your child is complaining that the bow kicks a lot and it hurts to shoot, that usually means there's too much bend in the center of the bow. So to remedy that, continue to work those outer limbs until the bow comes around into more of an even arch instead of so much bend in the middle. Next, these bows will gain quite a bit of weight early on. They're soaking wet when you make them out of green wood. So over those first few days to the first week, it's going to lose a tremendous amount of moisture, and the bow's going to get harder to pull back. So once your kid can no longer pull it back, just get your rasp back out and take an even amount of wood off both sides of the bow all the way out the limbs, keeping that overall shape and that nice bend in mind as you do so. And just continue to take wood off until it's manageable again. And you might have to do that once or twice, but eventually the wood will not have any more moisture in it, and it will be stable, and it'll stay that weight for the remainder of the bow's life. Lastly, if you want these to last many months and not just be a 1 or a 2 day throwaway, make sure you unstring them after use. If you leave them strung up for days at a time, when they're green like this, they'll dry in that bent shape and they'll lose all their power, and the string will become very loose. So shoot them for hours at a time or whatever, but when you're ready to take a break for the day, just take that looped end, slide it down the limbs, and now this bow is unstrung and ready for storage. That's it. Have fun and good luck with your build. We've made dozens of these over the years at our community campouts and our family gatherings and stuff, and they're always a huge hit. Just be responsible. These bows are surprisingly powerful, so make sure your kids understand the risks. Don't point them at pets. Don't point them at any animal you do not intend to kill. And Oh, and remember, we offer in-person classes right here in my workshop. So if you've ever wanted to build a serious primitive hunting bow from start to finish using only simple hand tools, check out my website at organicarchery.com/workshops. Thanks for watching.